They say if you want to get fit, raise your heart rate. I tell you how to do that. Play the jingle for the show you're live on. Woof, up it comes. So welcome to Wednesday. It's midday. If you're watching it live. If you're not watching it live and you're watching it on replay or on catch up, give us a little hashtag replay in the comments. We'll show you some love, even if you're not watching it live. But if you are, welcome. Wednesday midday. So our show, we have special guests on, and today's no exception. We've got Pete White on, and Pete will introduce himself in a second. Usual from me, obviously I'm a colossal megalomaniac, so if you would please show me the love in the comments, let me know you're listening, give us your name, and I'll give you a little bit of a shout out on the screen. The other thing is that both Pete and I are known to use a little bit of Anglo-Saxon language when we speak, so word to the wise, if you want to put your earbuds in or maybe just move to another room. Otherwise, the little people in your house will be asking you interesting questions about what that word meant, and you don't need that in your life. So Wednesday, this show is for executives, job seekers, career movers, people in corporate life who want to level up. And we're talking about a pretty serious subject today. We're going to be talking about wellness and mental health. This is a thing that I think eludes a lot of us in terms of what the hell it actually means. Obviously, I have an understanding of what mental health is, but wellness seems to have, I don't know. The first time I heard wellness, I thought of tie-dye t-shirts and crystals. So we're a long way from where Pete comes into this. Andrew's rolled into the room, giving us a hi from Cloudy Andover again. Yeah, you and me both there, Andrew. It's a grey old day out there. Alina's backing us up as per usual. And we'll be putting live links into the comments, so check those out because I know there's some good stuff coming your way. Martin's rocked in from, where are you, Martin? From York today. Nice, Martin, nice. Pete, where are you? Where are we inviting you in from today?
I'm in Shropshire, mate, which is the same. It's overcast and horrible at the moment.
That's basically the whole of the UK, overcast and horrible. Pete, before you explain what you do in any great detail, just give us a little bit of a flavour for who you are so that the people who don't know you and haven't heard you speak before know who's talking to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pete White and I run Pete White Consulting. So a little bit about my background, very, very briefly, because I literally wrote a book in it, so I could talk about it for hours. In fact, I do. I spent 9 years in the forces, spent time in Afghanistan and various other places, developed PTSD and severe depression from some of the things that happened in Afghan, which were, let's say, less than fun. And basically went for about 6 or 7 years where I really struggled massively with my mental health. And when I came out of the military, kind of eventually things started to change for the better. I still live with PTSD and it does still bother me. However, I live perfectly happy, healthy, even despite this. And I basically took this and used it as a vehicle effectively to try and do some kind of good in the world with this. So yeah, that's a little bit about where I'm coming from, really.
Okay, so let's start there then. You want to do some good in the world. Your world is the corporate workplace, yeah?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So let's ask this question. What do you really wish, every workplace understood when it comes to well-being? Because I have to say, I a lot of us, I'm ex-corporate life, sat on the board of businesses, and I hear wellness and I just think, that's just for people who need their handheld. And you get some HR diarists come out and they bang on about wellness, and I'm not even paying attention because I just know that there's going to be a specialist on stage any second now who's just come out with some sort of hippie commune. Who's going to bang on about chanting whatever, and I'm like, it's not for me. Do you know what I do? I do P&L. I do capitalist stuff. I'm a frothing at the mouth money-making machine. Just fuck off with your wellness shit, will you? Oh, there we go. Ding, ding. Our first little bit of So perhaps you can help us lot, us ignoramuses in the corporate world, understand something wholly more constructive than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm about as far away as you can get from baggy trousers, tie-dye, man bun and chai tea as you're going to get. So basically, what I really wish people would understand, certainly in a workplace context about well-being and about wellness and mental health, that kind of thing, is we need a plan to actually tackle it because it's something that's constantly ongoing. And that plan we call a well-being strategy, but that doesn't need to be really expensive or really complicated. And I get this a lot with the people who come and speak to me is they're like, I don't know where to start. There's so many options. And there absolutely are, but we don't need to overcomplicate it. But we do have to put the work into it because our mental well-being is just as important as our physical well-being. So when we're talking about looking after our physical health, drink so much water a day, your fruit, your veg, all that kind of thing, walk so much. We need to be doing the same kind of stuff, but for our mental health. But it does take the work in a corporate respect. But the point is, and the real takeaway from this is that work does actually yield results in the form of money. Like I say, people being a money making machine. If you want the facts and stats, for every £1 we invest into well-being, as long as we invest it properly and not just some stupid initiative, it actually yields a £5 return. So that's like a 300% return on investment for this kind of stuff. So it takes the work, but it's worth it. It really is.
That's interesting. I've never, and because I always, wellness would be a cost, a nice thing to do, part of the benefits package, But apparently, it goes to the bottom line. If you have, and I presume that's partly to do with costs, because sick workforces cost you a fortune, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And more productive workforces make you a fortune. And if you can have less sickness and more productivity, then hello, £1 equals 5.
Exactly.
There's the kind of wellness P&L I'll buy. I'm like, no, I'm talking. Hello, I'm listening to that. Just for those of you who were listening earlier, Pete said he actually literally wrote the book. And there it is. You can get it on Amazon. What's it called, Pete? What's the title?
So it's called From the Bottom of the Barrel, and it basically details my journey, both in Afghan, what happened there, what happened as a consequence, and then what happened for the following years, and kind of how I ended up where I am now. But it's a good book, I hope, but it's certainly not for kids.
No, do not give that to your children for Christmas, but do get it for yourself. It's an amazing read. Right, so basically what we're trying to understand, or get corporate workplaces to understand, is that wellness isn't some fluffy tie-dye crystals t-shirt hippie commune thing. Actually, this is £1 in, £5 out, because it mitigates costs and increases productivity, as well as, quite frankly, being morally the right thing to do with people who are trying to make a fortune for you, is to look after them. And it doesn't have to be expensive or complicated, but it does have to be done well. So let's talk a little bit about that then. If there's one thing that every company did that could have an impact on their well-being, where would you start them off? So, you know what, this is something that's visible for them. I wish they'd all do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are so many different ideas and directions we could take this, but I think the one for me that has the biggest payoff in the shortest amount of time is to provide training for managers in terms of well-being and mental health and this kind of thing. So things like how to spot the signs that someone might be struggling. When I say struggling, I don't necessarily mean, full-blown depression, full-blown anxiety or PTSD, just that someone is having a hard time, because that's going to impact on their work as well. And if you do spot the signs of someone struggling, is to feel comfortable and to feel confident to have a conversation with them about, what's going on, how we can move forwards, that kind of thing. Because managers often feel really worried about the boundaries, about what are their responsibilities in a work context, and also about saying the wrong thing. So they often choose not to say anything. And that isn't because they're in any way, looking to do wrong or bad. That doesn't really happen, at least not much. But it's just that they're worried, they're a bit scared to have it, so they choose not to. So yeah, massively is to provide that training for the management. And then what you tend to see is that training starts to filter down, because those managers can start to talk about what they've learned and the takeaways they've had with the workforce and with their reports under them. And then it kind of starts to spread out across the organization. That for me is the easiest and the biggest thing that a company can do.
They talk to, particularly us guys, if you've got something wrong with you, including physical health, but also mental health, talk about it. But the reason why we don't is we're not confident with the vocabulary, are we? We're like, I'm going to get this all clumsily wrong. So it's just safer not to say anything. So maybe that middle management training. And I'll tell you the other thing I've noticed, which feeds right into this right now, is that we're all working from home much more than we were, sometimes completely all week. Really, really tough to have those drive-by conversations at the water cooler.
Yeah.
How's your dad? How's his leg, etc. If I was in corporate life right now, no one would be able to ask me about my family, because quite frankly, I jump onto Zoom, we do a business meeting, I jump off, that's it. Whereas if I was in the office, people would be able to talk about my family. And, my father's got early stage dementia right now. It's, it's a challenge for us all. Middle management aren't getting those little data flags in the office because we're not in the office. And so giving them that vocabulary and the confidence to use it, that they're not going to say something wrong or tricky or challenging for anyone, means that those conversations will actually get to occur, which is hugely important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now you've been doing this for a while. You've seen people try and attempt it sometimes before they call you in to go and sort it out. What are they getting wrong? What do organisations often get wrong with workplace well-being?
I think the thing I see most is that they treat it as a bit of a tick box exercise. So they'll look for the easy out effectively, and that might be a mental health workshop once a year, usually on mental health awareness day, week, or month.
Yeah.
Or if they just get a fruit basket for the office every day, we're sorted. It just isn't that simple. And when it comes to mental well-being and mental health and well-being in general, it's a constant, like I say, the same as physical well-being. In the same ways we spend that time focusing on our physical health, we put things in place for our physical health. We need to be putting these things in place for our mental health as well. And as an organization, it's making them not just there, accessible, but also easy to access, raising the awareness that they're there. So when someone is struggling, they know what to do, they know who to turn to, they know how to do it, and massively, they feel comfortable to do it. Because I promise you, that one little workshop or that food basket isn't going to change your company culture in a way that someone's comfortable to say, you know what, I'm struggling right now, what I could do with a bit of support. It takes so much more work, so much more effort than that to make these changes.
I'm going down to see my mentor tomorrow. Actually, my mentor. And my very first conversations with him was all work, digital marketing, this, audience, business. Most of the work that he's done with me has been nothing to do with work whatsoever. And the books that I've read and the questions I'm asking myself are all about self. And we started off, and now my list, I'm going to see him tomorrow, and I've looked at my list. Work doesn't even make it into the top 3. Because if you don't have your mental health and you don't have your physical health, you really don't have anything else to give anyone. Nope. Right? If I don't have the first 2, then business and family, everything else doesn't exist. So on top of my list is mental health. Second down is physical health. Third down is family. Fourth, we're now looking at business and other related issues. And that those are very powerful cornerstone drivers for performance, which is where I come into it. But so for a business, I think, yeah, you're right. It's just, we all know that physical health will cause sickness, but mental health causes a lot more sickness. And if you want a high performance business, you've got to look after your people.
Yeah, exactly. And what you tend to find is people who work maybe in kind of caring industries like healthcare or the care sector, or also execs as well, is they try to pour from an empty cup. So they've given and given and given, and they've not actually topped up at all, and they're still trying to pour. And this is where we start looking at things like stress and burnout and things like depression and anxiety come into as well, because you've just got nothing left to give.
Yeah, no, it's hugely important. If you've got questions, fire them into the comments, please. We are here live, and we'd want to help out, particularly if you're interested in maybe improving the wellness culture in your organisation and don't know how to start that conversation. I don't know who to start it with, or you kind of it needs to be done, but you don't really know what the first point starting point is. Then shout, all right, and we'll see if we can't help you out there and load you up with some questions to ask. Now, having said all that, I know that the wellness market is not small and it's growing rapidly. And I've met some of those HR people carrying clipboards and saying, let's have a one-day retreat on wellness, and they tick the box, and that's that. I won't tell you what I think about those people. We've had some Anglo-Saxon language already. But what sets you apart from other wellbeing consultants and trainers? He says immediately, like I didn't know the answer, but everybody else.
There are so many like mental health trainers out there. It's like we breed like rabbits. There's new ones appearing every day, and it is becoming a really saturated market. I think for me there are a few things. So I think the fact that I've been there and I've done it, I've lived it to quite an extreme level. Like my journey as well as PTSD, depression took me to points of suicide and also having a psychotic episode. But I think one of the big things is that when I'm working with people, I speak to people as people. I don't care if they're the CEO. I don't care if they're an apprentice. I'm still going to talk to them as a person. And this is what you tend to get is consultants and trainers are so fucking boring. They're so great and just kind of copy and paste. And I like to try and bring the human elements into what we're doing. And actually, we can make it even fun, believe it or not. You can make mental health a bit of fun. And I don't treat it as a tick box exercise. So rather than just look at it as running a single course, and sometimes there is a need for that. I'm not saying I don't ever do that, but I prefer to look at it as the whole picture, and put in put in place a strategy to actually tackle that whole picture. So we're looking at the entire organization and their needs, not just one little course that's where it starts to become a bit tick boxy.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there are at least a half dozen ways I can think of how he is different to your regular wellness trainer. You know, yes, you're going to do the right things, but you're not going to get it done in a tick box way. You're actually going to get things done. There's a difference there between filling in the paperwork and making a difference.
Yeah.
Pete is Pete, Anglo-Saxon and all, and so I think that does break down barriers. People then can feel a bit more confident to speak to you because you haven't dressed it up in management consultancy speak. That can be a bit impenetrable. And Pete has lived it. All right, this isn't something that's not book theory. All right, Pete's the walking example of having gone through that journey start to end. So we've got some questions coming in. So I'm going to just pause and have a little look at those. Alina's saying that her old employer had a go-to person for mental health. However, said person was best friends with the HR director, which everyone knew, so nobody dare approach them. And that's difficult, isn't it? Because HR are often the keepers of secrets, and you don't want to let them know yours. So, in your experience, is there an example of the kind of office holder, or role holder, or job title that someone ought to be to give confidence that that person can be gone to? Or
honestly, we need to be moving away from having this person, because if people did go to that person, then what is the consequences for that person? It's going to have an effect on them. I mean, I've been involved now in about 16 suicidal interventions, and to translate that, people who are thinking about or acting on ending their own life. And it really, really takes it out of you. And it's not just suicide, it's all the other stuff as well. So that person is going to end up burning out and having an impact as well. So when I'm working with clients, we look at who will be the best people, but we are talking multiple people. And sometimes it might be job roles, managers can be quite good, but at the same time, you can have a manager who would be the worst, for example, mental health first aider in the world. So it's about having people in place across the organization where they're accessible to to every aspect of the workforce. And that includes execs, because execs need support as well. But, that also might include Tim, the office junior, who's just actually a really supportive person and people enjoy speaking to him. And these are the people that we want, people who are empathic and supportive, non-judgmental, who can actually keep things to themselves and aren't the office gossip. These are the people that we want, regardless of what their job position is, basically.
Fine. Quick question here from a Facebook user. By the way, great perspective. Thanks, says LinkedIn user. I don't know who you are, LinkedIn user. Facebook user, is procrastination a mental health issue? I don't think it is my short answer to that. But what do you think, Pete?
I wouldn't say it is a mental health issue. It can be an outcome. It can be a symptom or sign, but probably more appropriate, of somebody who might be struggling. And it could potentially lead on to further issues. Certainly, if you're procrastinating over something that needs doing and it starts to grow and become a bigger issue, and that builds your stress and that kind of thing. But procrastination in its own right, I wouldn't say is a mental health issue. It's more of a psychological phenomenon, really.
Yeah, I mean, the danger of asking whether asking the mad person whether they're mad, because they wouldn't know. I am a procrastinator, and I don't think I have any particular mental health issues. Although, how would I know? But to solve my procrastination, I use this book called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. There you go, Mel Robbins, 5-Second Rule. That is a brilliant book for anybody who, like me, just doesn't want to do it now. They'll do it later. So maybe that would be the answer, rather than turn it into something perhaps more comprehensive than it really is. Basically, you say, what's the difference between a wellbeing consultant and a counsellor? I saw a trained counsellor during my cancer recovery to help move forward. And so, yeah, is that semantics, or is there an actual thing there?
No, there is an actual difference there. So as a wellbeing consultant, I'm not clinical, right? I'm not medically trained. What I do in terms of the knowledge I pass across is kind of clinical knowledge and all, with the evidence and that kind of thing. But I'm not here to kind of help people overcome their mental health issues, whereas that's what a counsellor would do. So a counsellor, typically, I think it's about 6 or 7 years training. They are clinical in nature, they are medically trained, and that's the big difference there, is they are medical in their approach.
Fine. Question for me then. What would, if someone, because this is, a serious subject, if someone is struggling with their mental health but doesn't really know what to do about that, what would you say to them? What's the...
Oh, you know what? It's such a difficult question because I've been there myself, and it's such a confusing time where sometimes you might feel completely hopeless, or there's no option. And what I will say is I'd say the single best thing you can do is just find a person who you are comfortable to speak to. Now, I can say to you to go speak to your GP, and yes, that's one of the best things you can do. However, it's also one of the most difficult things you can do in terms of how you perceive it. So whether it's a mate or whether it's someone in work or a coach or someone like that, you've also got people like Samaritans. And people think that Samaritans are this big leap, and they think they're for suicide. They're not. They're just a 100% confidential helpline where you call up and say, I'm having a tough time right now. Can we have a chat? And that's it. And just by getting those words out, it makes things so much easier. Another method is just to write things down on your own. If you want, write things down onto paper, because what you tend to find is when you're struggling with your mental health, it's a really confusing time. And what I call it is it's like a static noise in your head. So when you're writing it down, you're taking things from your head, getting them down on paper, and it's so much easier to understand and comprehend, and then think, okay, what are my next steps going to be from here? And that might be a GP, might be a helpline, or can be things like your employee assistance program in work.
There you go. So GP, Samaritans. There are other helplines out there, and you've got someone you just trust and who isn't going to be judgmental, but they're going to listen. Write it down. Yeah, I do that a lot. Sometimes my head gets very busy. It's a stress management technique rather than a full-blown mental health technique. But sometimes you're like, it's really hard to escape your thoughts. All right. Whereas if you dump them all, and I have actually, the book fell over. It's behind me. I have a journal just exactly for that. That's what I do. And I just dump all the crap in there, and then you look at it all and go, actually, most of that's not complicated. I can just draw a line through that. Now I'm down to 3 or 4 things that actually do need attention. They're no longer in my head, and they can become a plan, and the whole thing is just a whole lot less stressful. So writing things down is a good one for me. There's a bunch of advice there. If people want to connect to you, then linkedin.com, Pete-White-Consulting, Pete White Consulting, check him out. Particularly if you are newly installed in a corporation and you've seen absolutely zero sign of any wellness program, any mental health support. Given that we are now in a more remote working environment, we're less management oversight of conversations. They're getting a lot less red flags, so they don't know how to support you well. Then maybe reach out to Pete and just say, how do I start the conversation internally? So that we actually get better than we've got right now. Because beanbags and table football machines aren't going to cut it. We need something more interesting than that. And if you want to, if they click this link, what do they get, Pete?
So what they'll get is it's actually brand new. I only finished it last week. It's like an ebook guide to self-care. And when people talk about self-care, they often think, what the hell does that actually mean? It's a really fluffy and meaningless phrase. What I've actually done is just included loads of actual tools, things you can sit down and do to look after your self-care. And things that I do regularly to look after myself. Like I said before, I still have PTSD. I've struggled with it recently, especially with the fireworks. And these are all things I've used within the last week or so to actually help myself. So yeah, it's really, really kind of practical tools you can use.
See, I'm such a Luddite. You say self-care and I just hear pedicure and a bath with aromatherapy candles.
If that's what works for you, mate.
But, so I'm not saying no to that. We're just saying it's more than that, right? There's a really useful self-care guide there that I would urge everyone to get. And I want to say massive thank you to Pete for providing that for free, because I know there's a lot of good value in there. So the link's in the comments right now. So dive on in, click that, grab one for yourself. Let's have a little look. I think we've covered the questions, so that's good news. Right. Just a difficult segue from me. I want to say a massive thank you to Pete, which I'm going to cover in a second. But let's just get that off the screen, because otherwise we'll be all over the place here. There you go. Pete White. You can connect to Pete White there. I am running a week tomorrow, a high performance CV masterclass. The link will appear in the group comments. I'm also going to do something a bit more interesting than I've done on previous masterclasses. I'm going to give away access to the full Executive Edge program, not just the CV program, everything. Positioning, messaging, distribution, CV, LinkedIn, interviews, personal network, recruitment partners, negotiation. I make people tens of thousands with this. So that's a week Thursday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Grab your spot on that right now, and the links are appearing in the comments as we speak. I'll put your link back up to that self-care guide. I want to say huge thank you. It's really, I am what I believe to be most men, which is really shit at talking about this stuff. So having you on and enabling that conversation is a massive win, just in that alone. And knowing there's someone I can come to and ask, how do I start the conversation at work, so that I get the language right, and I don't have to be the solution to it, but at least I can get the ball rolling at work. Then I know that I can come to you. Yeah. So that's really helpful. And I've got that self-care guide that you've just provided to us, which means I can start looking at some of the practical things that I can do and maybe talk about a little bit at work that I do that might resonate with people. And maybe that resonance lets me know that there's an opportunity there to bring Pete in to talk to us a little bit about how we can bring that in on a corporate level rather than on a self level. If you've liked what we did today, if you thought that was useful and helpful, then do a quick post on LinkedIn, one-liner. Just saw Wednesday's hashtag The Exec Ed Show with @Johnny Walker and @Pete White, and then add in your comment, whatever you thought of it, good, bad, or indifferent. And two things will happen magically. One is we'll see that because you tagged us in, and we'll put a link to a replay of the show. And that way, any of your network who sees your comment will be able to click on that link and watch it for themselves. Secondly, because you tagged us in and we put that replay link in, our network, I've got about 16,000 people top that up, so you're talking tens of thousands of people there, will know that we've commented on your post. And some eyeballs on you right now, if you're looking for work, it's no bad thing. All right, so more visibility for you and paying it for people who, you never know, do you? You're probably never going to get any feedback on this one, but somebody somewhere is going to see that. They're going to watch this. They're going to connect to Pete. There's going to be a program. Somebody somewhere down the road will have quite a significant impact positively on their lives. And so I would urge everyone just to pay that forward for me. Do that one-liner on LinkedIn, okay? For those of you who haven't got it yet, the link to the 7-Steps ebook is in there as well. That's in the comments, but I'm just going to put that back up. All right, that's not me. That's not what I want. Woo, there we go. That's self-care guide is in the Facebook and the LinkedIn comments. Massive thank you, Pete.
Pleasure, mate. Really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for having us.
You're welcome. And I will see you all next Monday to start the week off well. Look after yourselves. Take care. Yes.